So AMC had its reverse split today, 1 for 10, and it still managed to drop another 30% plus today in split adjusted prices at lows. And if you look at the split adjusted prices since heights in 2021, it's gone from $726.20 to $13.33. Before the split, this would have been $72.62 to $1.33. If you do the math on that, that is a drop of about 98%, a little bit more than 98%. And tomorrow, APE, which has also gone down dramatically since it was introduced, will be rejoining with AMC, and that's going to cause about a 90% dilution of AMC common stock. And then over the coming weeks and months, you're going to see issuance of massive amounts of AMC common stock. Market makers, short sellers, predatory hedge funds are, in my view, and pretty obviously, creating a dump on this stock right now to play off the coming issuance of more AMC shares that have been signaled by management. We haven't had the next stage of dilution yet, so the reason it's selling off has to be something that's outside of that dilution, right? It's markets pre-factoring in the dilution. Now, there's a lot of people that are saying that retail is panic selling. I don't think that's the case, because if you've held all the way down to here, it's unlikely that you're going to start dumping now. The problem here is very, very clear. Management has given short sellers the green light to dump on this stock as much as possible. They are essentially telling short sellers that it is open season for AMC stock. And so it's not surprising at all to see this drop. And this was something we warned about during the beginning of AMC's share offerings, something that we warned about during APE. When that was introduced, we said, make sure you're selling APE unless you want to bail out the company, because you're going to be diluted massively. And finally, we've warned that dilution is going to be a bad thing for the squeeze setup for a year plus, and we warned that AMC's management will push for dilution no matter how little they actually need that dilution. And all of these things have come true, despite the fact that by telling the truth, we were called massive shills. The sad thing is that AMC is signaling right now that it is open season to short the hell out of their stock. This is in their own filings. If you go to their SEC filings, they're soon going to have the ability to immediately issue 25 million new shares on the market, which is about 17% of the current float. Doing this at multi-year lows for AMC stock is a big mistake. Big mistake. It's a big slap in the face to all of the investors who held this all the way down as the company went all the way back up. And it's not just the 25 million shares, it's way worse than that. Anybody that tells you it isn't is lying to you, and they are not reading the filings that AMC themselves posted. As a result of the actions taking place this week, AMC will have the total ability to issue 550 million shares of Class A common stock and 50 million shares of preferred stock. Right now, AMC's post-split float is about 155 million. So when you're talking 550 million plus more shares available to be offered onto the market, that is a massive ability to dilute. That is the ability to take a stock that is already down at many multi-year lows and create a situation where it goes down substantially even more. For me, this is a simple math problem. If you want a short squeeze, you have to create a situation where you have a rush to buy shares that are not readily available. If you're in a situation where the company's going and printing out new shares like candy, like toilet paper, then all of a sudden it's going to be a lot more complicated to have that squeeze. With AMC now sitting at prices lower than it was trading at even when AMC's business was forced to be shut down during the pandemic, well, it's hard to argue that this dilution effort from management has been anything but advantageous for short sellers. People will look you in the eye today and tell you that short sellers have been destroyed on AMC stock. Yet the fact of the matter is that AMC is trading at a lower level today than it has been in years. AMC's business was literally buried in a situation where they had mass lockdowns and complete uncertainty as to when the pandemic would be over. And yet AMC still traded at higher levels than it's trading at today. Why? Because of how many shares are out there. How many shares are expected to be added? How much more dilution is expected to happen at record low prices? And short sellers are emboldened as ever to make sure that this is trading as low as ever, because guess what AMC is going to be doing after this combination is completely done? Issuing tons and tons, buckets of shares. And look, folks, we've been talking about this for a long time, and it's always FUD when you say something bad about a management decision. But it's so clear if you just open your eyes for 2 seconds and you look at how just the stock price reacts to different decisions. You saw what happened when the conversion was delayed. It boomed massively. And then you saw what happened when it went through. It dropped massively. If you look at a period of just a month, without this conversion, you're at $88. With this conversion, you're now at $13.33, and you've climbed a little bit above that, but you're around $13.33. It is time for each of us to admit that AMC's management has been reckless and has in effect armed short sellers again and this is the most obvious attempt at that. And you can just tell by looking looking at how the stock is trading. We had massive dilution in AMC, then shareholders didn't want dilution, so AMC figured out a workaround with APE. APE got massively diluted, then APE was trading too low. So guess what happens? Well, we need to recombine APE to AMC. Now they're recombining, AMC's dropping like a rock, and what are they going to do next? More dilution with AMC common stock. And quite frankly, it's going to be a race to the bottom. As short sellers rush to pre-factor in the coming dilution and dump more and more shares of AMC stock onto the open market before dilution even happens, it's going to be harder and harder, and it's going to cripple AMC's ability to even raise capital. And again, what is this all for? Why? Why are they even doing this? Why does AMC's price have to be destroyed this much? Does this make any sense to you? Just ask yourself. Look at the stock price on the chart the last year, a record year for the market. Has AMC benefited from that at all? Has AMC benefited from the rebound in their business? Has AMC's management done a good job at protecting any kind of shareholder value? Why do they now need to raise capital? If you look at the last report, they bragged. They bragged and gloated about having $600 million in liquidity and being profitable and having record attendance. Adam Arrogant acts like he's the Abraham Lincoln of CEOs. And he calls himself the silverback of the apes that, of course, bailed his company out and bailed him out, despite the fact that those apes are being destroyed again and again by reckless management decisions, recklessly empowering short sellers. In reality, he himself has been one of the cleanest, clearest, and biggest benefactors of this whole AMC movement. He really should have gone into politics because he could lead millions off a cliff and then blame someone else, and people will believe it. Not only have AMC shareholders bailed out his company again and again and again, but they also helped him keep his ever-increasing compensation at $23.7 million in 2022, which was a 25% raise from 2021. They also helped him dump a bunch of his shares at ridiculously high prices. As you know, he famously sold mass amounts of his shares at the end of 2021 and early 2022, and the prices he sold them at, split adjusted, are at $228, $308, and $405. You do the math on this, he cashed out about $42 million in addition to the massive compensation that he already makes as CEO of AMC. AMC was already paying him about $18.9 million at that time. Now it's gone up a lot, but at the time he was getting paid $18.9 million. And this would not have happened if the apes, the AMC retail holders, had not bailed them out. He said this was just smart retirement planning. Oof, was he right? I myself would love to retire with $40 million worth of cash that I did nothing to earn. And folks, don't you think for a second that he wouldn't have sold every single share that he owned if it wouldn't have put his main position in jeopardy? If he could sell every share he owned and still remain CEO, I have no doubt he would have done it. I have no doubt he would have shorted the stock. But anyways, do you know how much it would have been if he sold 125,000 shares at today's prices? How much do you think he would have earned? Well, at $13.33 a share, which his shareholders would have to sell at today, well, if he sold that original position, he'd only have $1.33 million instead of $42 million. But thanks to AMC's retail shareholder base, he got that $42 million in stock sales, and at the same time, he got his around $20 million in compensation for all of these years. Now, of course, while Adam Aron was dumping on retail, well, AMC itself was dumping massively on retail, of course, first through AMC common stock, and then when they couldn't dilute anymore through that, they used APE, and then now when they can't dilute through that, they're now using AMC common stock again as of a couple weeks from now. The truth is, folks, that management as a whole has been using AMC stock as a piggy bank for years. If you look at AMC's insider buys and sells the last few years, you had record selling in Q1 of 2021. And why do you think that is? Just take a guess. Is it because maybe AMC stock price started going up rapidly during that quarter? So this is a guy that in effect bailed on tons of his shares, really the vast majority of the value of his shares, diluted his loyal shareholders into the ground, invested in random projects during periods of time where he should have been focused on the actual business, named his dilutive vehicle APE after the APE shareholders that bailed out his company, and then proceeded to dilute them massively, and continues to take a massive salary despite the fact that he's claiming on a weekly basis, basically, that AMC is on the verge of a liquidity crisis and needs to raise capital. And the truth is, folks, that since day one, if you've criticized anything about Adam Aron, you have been considered a paid-for shill. You have been considered somebody that works for the hedge funds that are trying to bring this down, instead of somebody that is just looking at the actual facts. Only morons think that you can look at something and it's all black and white. They're the bad guys, they're the good guys. No, my friend. There can be a lot of different problems. You have the system, which is very, very problematic, and definitely favors people that aren't the investors. It favors insiders. It favors, in this case, short sellers. And then you have the actual company and the insiders within a company that can make millions and billions of dollars, not by being good at running a business or by actually selling things to customers, but by simply selling shares, by simply selling shares that have appreciated. A CEO could sell a cardboard box with the letters AI written on it, and if they can convince enough people to buy that stock, all of a sudden they could sell those shares before that company becomes anything valuable. And this is exactly what happened with AMC stock. You had insiders selling in mass shares of a company that otherwise would have gone bankrupt if it wasn't for the bailout by retail investors. And now that the tables have turned and AMC is back into sustainability, at least from a company standpoint, well, what's happening? Well, AMC's management does not care about the retail investors and are pushing aggressively to dilute and now have the ability to do it. But with all of this aside, I have to say, I still think it is not too late. There still could be decisions made to protect the retail shareholder. And I hope that it's made. I'm not going to hold my breath because I think I'll die of suffocation, but still, I think that there's still a shot here. Yes, AMC shares will join APE tomorrow and the dilution will be about 90% of the total float. But the next stages of dilution do not have to happen. Just because AMC is going to have hundreds upon hundreds of millions of shares available to offer onto the market does not mean that they have to make that choice. Management can still decide to do the right thing. Management can actually wait until AMC is not trading at record low prices, flip off the short sellers who thus far they've helped, and completely recover the stock to at least where it was before all of this nasty dilution fear. I'm appealing to you today to share this video on Twitter, on Reddit, and on all forms of social media that you have. Share it as much as possible to let management know that it is not too late to avoid destroying the retail shareholder, that it is not too late to save AMC stock and in the future save their ability to actually raise capital at much higher prices. If AMC raises capital at record low prices, AMC is done. The stock price is going to be destroyed into the ground. It's going to take years until the price goes back anywhere near where it was just a month ago, split adjusted. If management decides today to prove short sellers wrong and say, you know what, yeah, we have the ability to offer a ton of shares, but actually we're not going to do it, what's going to happen? The short sellers are going to be screwed. And you're finally going to get a situation where all of a sudden the massive squeeze could happen. Please share this video and explain to everybody that management can wait a year. They can afford to wait a year. Look at the balance sheet. Have them wait just a year. Watch as AMC stock price climbs back up, and then after a year and after the business has another 3-4 quarters behind it, then you can make a little offering and slowly start to pay down some of that debt, give AMC a bigger profit margin, and then slowly but surely and incrementally fix the overall situation for AMC. That is the real way to help the AMC company. It is not to dilute shareholders that have been very, very loyal for years at prices that are the weakest they've been in years. What I am saying here is that retail shareholders bailed out AMC. It is now time for AMC to bail out retail shareholders. And it's going to be way better for AMC over the course of the next couple of years if they do that, because they'll be able to raise capital at much, much higher prices, have a much better relationship with their shareholders, and prove the short sellers wrong, which is going to help AMC's price quite a lot in my view. This is the last chance. If this is something that matters to you, send this video to as many people as you can, share it on social media, tag AMC, tag Mr. Adam Aaron, all of that kind of stuff. This, in my view, is the last chance before this AMC stock is dead. Anyways, folks, that caps off today's video. Make sure to sign up for our completely free email reports down below if you want to keep up to date with what is going on in the market right now, where the opportunities are, and what is the truth, because that is what we're trying to bring you. In an industry where you have so many people saying things that aren't true, we're trying to bring you the real stuff.